Hi, I'm Ellen,
And I'm Mark.
and we are the parents of Stephen and Thomas, both of which are on the autism spectrum. Today we want to talk to you about how we have survived as parents with children on the spectrum. It's not an easy task, but it can be done.
When Stephen first told us about his project, we thought it might be a good idea for his parents to come on and say a little bit about what it's like for parents of autistic children. And for the parents out there, especially the parents of the younger children, we just wanted to say that we're really, really proud of our kids. When we look back to where they were, not having a lot of language, being able to only parrot, some of the other issues that was going on in those early years, and we look at them now and to the success that they've enjoyed, we are just so tremendously proud.
Our message for you today is autism is survivable. Your child will be diagnosed in the early age, 2, 3, or 4. This is going to put you into connection with people from the school districts. These are going to be professionals, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, people who are trained in how to deal with autism and the behaviors it brings. Your job as your child's advocate is to work with this team and to develop a community of people that will support you as you are helping to raise your child. This is very, very important that you are an active participant. Your child is going to depend on it. You're going to go to meetings called IEPs, Individual Education Plans. We very strongly encourage both parents, when possible, to attend every single one of these meetings and to educate yourself as much as you can. The schools will provide you a lot of information, but also go to the internet and get the rest of the information from the other groups, Autism Speaks, Autism Awareness, TACA, whatever you can find in your community. The better educated you are, the better prepared you are to go into these meetings, and the better you're going to advocate for your child. In these meetings, you're going to learn things. You're going to learn that not everybody has the same knowledge or commitment to your child's development as you do. There will be some times where you will not agree in these meetings, and that is okay. But it's never okay to just drop it just because one time they say no. If you feel strongly that your child has a need that they are not fulfilling, you need to keep going back. Remember, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, this is about your child. It is not about you. It's not about the schools. It's about what your little boy or girl needs in order to develop into the wonderful people they will become.
And to the parents out there, I want to give you a hard truth. Early intervention in autism is absolutely key. The earlier you address it, the better off it's going to be for both the child and the parents. So the first step in that is to admit that there's an issue and begin to work on it. Your child needs you. Our son Stephen was diagnosed with autism at about 3.5 years old, but we knew something was going on long before that. My wife and I, when we got the diagnosis, were faced with an issue where the daycare that he was staying at refused to allow him to come back. So we made together the hard choice that I would stay home and be a house dad raising our kids. It was a hard decision, but it turned out to be one of the best things we ever did. Early intervention is absolutely key, and one of the things that I did with Stephen is I would read to him every day, multiple times a day. Do music, do videos that featured letters, numbers, Sesame Street, Blue's Clues, things like that. And we gave him a structured environment, which was advice that we got from the school district, from the psychologist there. Being able to implement that stuff at home and then mirror what they were doing with the school gave our son a tremendous advantage. Stephen was almost nonverbal at the age of 3.5. His language was basically repeating phrases that he would hear either on TV or from other adults, something that was called parroting. And yet, with the reading, with the structured environments, with the videotapes, that he was able to go in about 1.5 years to starting to use his own words, construct his own sentences, and eventually move to the point where now, as an adult, he's a writer and a college graduate. Our experience with our son Stephen prepared us very well for the arrival of our third son, Thomas. Even at the age of a couple months, long before he could be diagnosed, and for those parents out there, before the MMR vaccine, we knew something was off. Instead of waiting, I went ahead and started doing the same intense early intervention therapies that we were doing with Stephen. Reading to my son every day, many times a day, using the Sesame Street and Blue's Clues videos, and particularly the computer. There's a lot of computer programs out there that are geared toward early language and number development, and kids just are absolutely fascinated by it. The benefit of all that intense therapy right from the beginning was that by the time Thomas was about 2.5 years old, he had not lost as much language as Stephen had lost at the same age. And by the time he was 3.5, he was actually able to read National Geographic articles with a little help on some of the bigger words. The early intervention was absolutely key.
A little while ago, parents, I had mentioned to you about developing a community around you to help support you and your child to get through this. This is paramount. It's paramount for your child's growth and development, but it's also paramount to help you and your loved one to survive what's coming up. One of the stressors on any marriage with any child that has any type of a special need is the fact that there is so much extra work going on. You can't do it by yourself. You're going to try. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to try. Remember, your husband, your wife, they need to be your best friend because you're in it together. And the stronger you are, the better it will be for your child. But sometimes that parent is not able to assist you. They're off working. In my case, my husband was in the military, and so there were times when I had to do it by myself. Develop that community. Reach out to organizations for autism. Or one of the organizations that I reached out to was Boy Scouts of America. It became very, very important for my boys to be around people, to understand how society works, and to understand that for every action there's a reaction, for every behavior there's a consequence. But I wanted them to have positive experiences. It also gave me a community of adults to deal with that were willing to assist me so that when my child was having that meltdown in public, and be sure your child is going to have meltdowns, there are going to be times it's beyond you ability to cope with this. So when you're going to involve yourself and your child in a community, you're going to have to do some education, whether it's with the school, in my case scouting, it could be the church, or whatever other organization that you're going to be involved with. You need to teach them about your child. You are the expert. You need to teach them about something that we call triggers. We all have them. Our children's triggers are out there, and it's their way of communicating to us when there's a problem creating a stress for them, one that perhaps they're not going to be able to deal with. There are various stages to these triggers. For example, for my son, one of the things when somebody stressed him out early on, he would start to stick his tongue out. Okay? That was the first step. That was the step that said to me, okay, Mom, I'm getting a little stressed, but I'm handling it. After that, the next step for him was he would start to flap. This is a term you're going to hear. It could be something from this to this to this. It's any repetitive type of motion, and they're using it to relieve the stress. Now, this is their way of saying to you, okay, my stress level is escalating, and I'm going to need you to help intervene or teach me how to relieve my stress, or this is not going to end well. This is not going to end well comes to a term called a meltdown. Children will throw tantrums. Every child will throw a tantrum. That is their little way of trying to control a situation. In the instance with our children, the difference between a tantrum and a meltdown, a tantrum a child can control. They start it on cue, they get what they want, and they can stop it on cue. With our children, a meltdown doesn't work that way. Once a trigger has been hit, and you missed the cues, and you didn't intervene, you're heading for an event that's usually going to be loud, explosive, and sometimes self-destructive or destructive to others. This is where our autism shows through. And it's imperative that you teach the people around your child, whether you're there or you're not there, what the symptoms look like, and how do you handle it. Because consistency, ladies and gentlemen, is the key. If you can teach the people that, okay, so when Stephen starts flapping, you need to ask him to come to a different room, change the venue, or you need to look around to see, which in his case was something that was the color yellow. Just let him touch it. For him, that was the end of the problem. But let's say we missed all those triggers, and now we're into this meltdown. In Stephen's case, he would get on the floor and he would engage in what we call head banging. Now, they can headbang on the floor with their head in a backwards motion, or some children will go so far as go on a wall and headbang there, or we've often seen children, luckily mine didn't, got involved in eye gouging, and that's where they literally will start to self-destruct. We cannot have the children doing that. Now, we try to intervene beforehand, but when this meltdown begins, there's usually a stage. Again, you know your child. You've seen what happens. You know at what point just giving a verbal cue, Stephen, stop that, versus a passive cue, I'm going to take his hand, I'm going to move it away, versus I'm going to have to envelop this child, remove him from the environment because he's now in a situation where he or someone is going to get hurt. It's imperative that you teach this to the people that are around your children. Number one, no one wants to sit there and watch a child get injured or to have such an event that they're so miserable. It's uncomfortable and people don't know what to do. But if you give them the tools to help them with this, they will help you. People are inherently good. And your child depends on your ability to teach and communicate to the community what your child needs. I have done this. My husband has helped me. We've had many years of talking with many schools, talking to principals, teachers. We've gone to the regional center in California, and we actually had to teach this to other parents. It is a successful technique, but be assured, this is a labor-intensive process, and this is where having a team member, a partner to help you with this is imperative. There were times that I was at the end of my rope, I couldn't do it anymore, and I would come to my husband, I'd say, Mark, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to retreat into tears. His job now is don't worry about me. He's got to take over and find out what's going on with our son. Or there would be days when I'd come home from work and he had been working with both boys, and I could see the look on his face, and I'm like, okay, honey, go take a drive in the car. I got the boys. You've got to be a tight team. If you don't have a husband or a wife that you're team with, look and see a parent, a sibling, or again, who in the community is going to be able, but understand safety first. If you're hitting the end of your rope, you do need to reach out and get some help.
We have 3 children. 2 of our children have autism. And yet for all that, through all the years, through all the struggles, we have 3 children. And I can say at the other end of this spectrum, where we are looking now at adults, that we cannot express how proud we are and how surprised we are at how well all our kids have turned out. Stephen, who once could not speak in complete sentences, now writes. He's a college graduate with a degree in photography, and he really surprised my wife and I when he got a job where he goes out and he photographs weddings, he does school photography, other special events where he has to interact with people all the time in very crowded, very noisy environments. We were shocked when he came home and told us that this was the job he was going to do. And yet he is doing so well that people are asking him to come back and they're giving him rave reviews. We can't be prouder of our son. Thomas is currently in college, and he's working toward a degree in computer science, and he is also in music. He works on the marching band up at the university that he's at.
And concert band.
And concert band and jazz band, that's right. And it's amazing to see where they've gone and what they can do. And I think that's probably the biggest message of hope we can give to parents out there, is that all that struggle, all that effort early on and throughout their lives is worth it.
Absolutely. Okay, so we would like to thank you for watching this video, and if you'd like to have more information, please check out Stephen's other vlogs at Tostemac, and have a good day.
All right, you two. No kissing on this channel. No kissing.
That's how we got you, honey.
Really?
Well...
Ay, caramba.
Bye, guys.
That's for you.
But what's going to shine through are going to be their disabilities or their other abilities, as I taught my children.
What's going to shine through is the disabilities.
Well, but that's what gets everybody's attention.
Yeah, but no, it sounds
No,
wrong.
you don't like the way it sounds? Okay. Skip that, Stephen. Retake. Hello, honey.
There's another one for the blooper reel.
This is what I had to deal with on a regular basis, ladies and gentlemen.
And he earned it.